Greetings, amigops and top teners everywhere. Welcome back to Top 10 with Kyle and Mike. This week, as he is every week, Mike is opposite me. We are going to discuss a topic. I happen to know what the topic is this week. We're going to rank a top 10 of that topic. We're going to debate it vigorously until we have a definitive version of that list. So what are we doing this week, Mike?
All right, dog. We're joined here by friend of the pod and friend of us, co-host Alex. So Alex, as you know, and the listeners don't, joined us as well as longtime girlfriend Caroline and future co-host of the pod, Jerry, my dad, for the Arctic Monkeys show in Boston last week. It was a joyous event, and I think probably fair to say the culmination of years of waiting for this group.
We had discussed years ago that when and if the Monkeys toured in the States, that we would just have to figure it out and do it. And it happened, and we went. It was great.
You're damn right it did. And we were able to mash together a very odd combination of people who matter to all of us.
Yeah. I didn't expect Jerry to have such a fandom of the Monkeys, but I'm very glad he was there.
Yeah, I gave him a lot of homework and he listened to a lot of it and he appreciated it. I think his take also on their new music was similar to yours. He was much more partial to kind of the AM Monkeys. But it was interesting for me in this experience to see how my different friends have taken to different portions of the Arctic Monkeys collection, because Caroline is kind of into more of the softer Arctic Monkeys work. My dad likes the pretty kind of straight rocky stuff a little bit like you do, but you and Alex have much more of an affinity for the early stuff than I do. Like the look on Alex's face when some of the like whatever people say, and that's what I'm not, or whatever you said, like that was what gave you the most joy, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you had such a boner for I think every song that came on that you weren't immediately sure which one it was. You were like, is this certain romance? Like you,
yeah,
like you have a certain romance for that era of their music for sure.
Yeah, it's charming. It's the new stuff. It just confuses me.
Well, we'll discuss in depth the difference between the albums, I'm sure. I think a disclaimer for people listening to this pod: if you're not a big Arctic Monkeys fan, I think you could probably still get a lot out of this podcast. What I would recommend, and what we're gonna do, is tweet out a playlist of their set list and other songs that we probably wish would have made the set list. So if you want, give that a listen and see if you like it. Give it a go through, and I think there's still probably value to be had out of listening to this pod, even if you're not intimately familiar with their work.
Absolutely. As we found out at the show, you are equally likely to be a fan if you are a 13-year-old girl, or if you are a maybe not equally as likely.
You know, I would say you're significantly more likely to be an Arctic Monkeys fan, apparently, if you're a little on the younger side. I felt that's the oldest I've ever felt.
How do you think Jerry felt? I think Alex said the average age in that place was 12, except when Jerry was there, it brought up to 13. And there were like 20,000 people in that arena.
One girl was like, we were on the escalator and this one girl was just cracking up. I don't know if you saw it. But
she was into that
reaction. It was great.
I really didn't expect that. It kind of took me by surprise.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, as far as people liking the Arctic Monkeys goes, the thing that I love about the Arctic Monkeys, and I think this is a big reason why I'm also such a huge fan of Bruce Springsteen, is that depending on your mood, depending on your stage of life, what's going on, who you are, you can kind of find anything you like. Like, a lot of people say, oh, I don't like Bruce Springsteen because I don't like Born in the USA. Well, I don't know. Do you like jazz and sort of like funk music? Listen to his early stuff. Do you like rock? Listen to later stuff. Do you like early 90s soft rock? Listen to his late 80s stuff. Like, there's so much different stuff. And that's what the Arctic Monkeys are great for, too, is that early punk sound does not sound anything like the lounge music of the last album, does not sound anything like the rock music of AM or, sort of the new wavy stuff before that.
It shouldn't surprise anyone that they're all 13-year-olds, because now that I think about it, I was like that age when I discovered the Arctic Monkeys. Like, that was middle school. I first learned about them, and like, fluorescent adolescent, that's 10 years old.
I know. That's crazy. They've
been
been putting out music for such a long time.
Oh, yeah. That's at least.
And what's cool about them and what's good about any great band is that, like you said, Mike, they've managed to change their sound each album. And yet, if you turn on any Arctic Monkeys song, definitively them.
Yeah.
They've got managed to keep something distinct about their music while
They're-
changing it up so much.
They're like the ELO of our age. When I hear ELO,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need to know it's ELO to know that it's ELO. When I hear the music playing, I'm like, that's them.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely what the major thing that opening act that played. What did they play? 47 songs, I think. The mini mansions. Was it like
the mini mansions.
the mini mansions? They wouldn't stop playing music. It was the longest opening act, I think, in the history of opening acts.
Do you remember in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the opening scene when they're in that advertising exec's office?
Yeah.
And he keeps like, and he leans forward and he's about to say something. And then he leans back.
That is such a perfect comparison. I just wish they would end. But the thing was, they actually had a good sound, but each different song didn't have anything to do with the previous one. My dad had that great text describing what he thought they were. It was a confusing mishmash, and that is decidedly not the Arctic Monkeys. They are wonderful and have a very consistent sound in spite of all of their experimentation.
Yep. So anyways, that's enough preamble. We're going to rank the top 10 songs that they played. Not necessarily their 10 best songs. That'd be a very different list. The 10 that I guess were performed best or we enjoyed most at this particular concert on this particular night.
Yeah. And so I am sort of, I guess, nominally in charge of the list. So there are a few that I think probably rank higher on my list than others because I happen to really like these songs, but we'll discuss. So I'll just kind of give this listen structure, I think is probably the way to think about it. So clocking in at number 10, I really loved their rendition of Don't Sit Down 'Cause I Moved Your Chair. So I had been checking out the set lists ahead of this, and worth noting, ours was a little bit different than what they've been playing the last few weeks. I knew that Don't Sit Down was going to be played. It did not disappoint. That is a rocker. That is a hell of a song.
It kicks ass, and for me, it would probably rank higher because it was the first song they played, I believe, that I knew exactly what it was right from the opening chord.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like heavy. There's some serious power chords in there.
Oh,
It really got me in the mood.
I've only heard that song like once, and so I was expecting. Is it in the newest album or
No, that's this is from. Is it Humbug? Is this one from Humbug?
No, this is from Suck It and See.
Oh,
which is not nearly as lewd as you think it is.
No. The American censors misunderstood that. What'd you say?
What year was that?
2011. So that's the album just before AM.
Okay.
So that's the
Super
one
underrated.
Yeah, that's the album. It is a criminally underrated album. That's the one when they start transitioning like more decidedly from the punky new wavy sound to the rock sound to immediately be traded for the David Bowie sound.
Yeah. There's very little folk and there's very some of their like softer stuff sounds almost a little folky at times. Yeah. This is definitely like a transition into like rock pop.
Yeah.
It definitely happens in Suck It and See. And this, you can tell which, like you said, I lean heavily towards their more modern rock stuff. And so like AM's my favorite album and Suck It and See is definitely my second favorite for that reason.
And this was a great rendition of a great song. Really enjoyed it. Like you said, it brought the heat.
Finally hearing him say live, do the Macarena in the Devil's Lair. Yeah.
It's just,
be so happy.
I'm trying to think of the other stuff he says, and it's not coming on, but all the ridiculous things that he like proposes in that song. Doing the Macarena in the Devil's Lair is one of my favorites, especially because he says, do the Macarena.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll say this again later, but one of my favorite things about seeing shows live is seeing the places where the artist decides to sing things a little differently than they do on the album. To me, it's a little disappointing when you get to a show and it sounds exactly like it does on the album.
Yeah.
And he did that a little bit in this song and a lot of other ones too. But fortunately, he said Macarena exactly like he does on the album.
He also said shite many times, and it sounded just like when he says shite on his albums.
Talking the same shite.
Say, if you don't know their song already in advance, it's really hard to follow along with it. Like you cannot sing along to any of their songs if you don't already know.
No,
the song.
I mean
that's true.
The title of this song is "Don't Sit Down 'Cause I've Moved Your Chair." That's 8 words, and I looked up a couple of these songs that I I've always kind of wondered what the hell they were about. This one, I guess, when he was doing that movie Submarine or whatever, I think Yellow Submarine or Submarine. It's like about a kid who loves the Beatles, I think. And somebody was saying something about like, what's the worst thing you could do? And he's like, could move your chair. And then he just like decided to write a song, Don't Sit Down because it moved your chair.
It's crazy what inspires people.
Yeah, and then just writes all these random things like doing the Macarena in the Devil's Lair.
Oh, man.
If you don't listen to any other song, well, I won't say that. If you just want to listen to kind of a funny, like this is a funny song.
Yeah.
Sounds like he just like he just used a random word generator and they just like put a word, it's like rhyme with this word, click, and then he just put together those lines.
It sort of feels that way at times. But so that's a great one. Number 9 is a song off the new album that I did not expect to hear and which I really enjoy, which is Bat Phone. So I love the song Bat Phone and have been listening to it nonstop since the concert. But before that, it hadn't totally clicked for me.
Mm.
I really enjoyed the rendition of this song.
Which one is this?
This is the I'll be by the bat phone. I can't sing, you know that. It's like, It's the one where he says bat phone a lot.
No,
the one with bat phone.
Yeah, the one where he says the glow of your low lights numerous times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he says, I like this one because this whole album is, and you and I have kind of had this discussion separately, which is whether this album is primarily like a Moon concept album or primarily a lounge concept album, because it's both, but my take is this is primarily a lounge concept album where he's sort of imagining himself as a douchey or older version of himself. And this song is great because it's the concept of the bat phone was pretty popular on the show Entourage, where like the douchiest character in television history, Ari Gold, has this bat phone, which is if it ever rings, he always answers it no matter what, because it's an important call. And he's like, Alex Turner is singing about like talking over a bucket of balls and the bat phone. And it's just like all of these corporate bullshit things that, he doesn't believe in, but like he's singing about being afraid of turning into that, I feel like.
Yeah, this whole, we did have this conversation, a pretty lengthy one off air, about how like artists tend to screw themselves when they release an album like AM that's just amazing start to finish. And not only is amazing start to finish, but is instantaneously and almost universally popular.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you follow that up?
Yeah.
This Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino is a lot of songs like this that are just kind of confusing and feel like he's just kind of fucking around.
Yeah.
Because he is.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm increasingly interested in trying to figure out whether they're following the Kanye West trajectory, because it kind of feels like it. When you look at their albums, it's like this early absolute hit, like just out of nowhere hit album. And then the kind of finding ourselves for a couple of years, figuring out our sound, and then the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy / AM. This is like a revelation. This is one of the great albums that's ever come out. And then the next album is this really divisive, weird thing like Yeezus or like Tranquility Base. And I don't know. We'll see where it goes next.
Pull the Yoko Ono, man.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic, but I will say that I'm not a big fan of their most recent album, but seeing it performed live has really helped.
And that was how I felt
like,
about Bat Phone specifically, because you got to hear him do that sort of crooning noise that he does so well. Like, he's got a great set of pipes. It sounded so good live. I really enjoyed Bat Phone.
Well, and if you're talking about crooning, like, he literally wasn't on the piano for almost any of the show. Like, he was just standing with his stand-up mic and, like, swaying back and forth for a lot of the songs off of this album, which kind of, sold that image again.
Yeah. All right. So number 8 was The Closer, a song that I've never really loved for some reason, but seeing it live changed my mind. Are You Mine?
Are You Mine?
I've always liked it because it's objectively an excellent song, but it just, for whatever reason, I don't know, it's just never totally connected with me, but seeing it live was an experience.
I think it's funny because this is one of the songs, every album has a song like this that is billed as, if not like the best song on an album, like the second best.
Mm-hmm.
And there, to me, is like actually probably the fourth, fifth, sixth best song on the album.
Yeah, you and I
Like
both
this-
know what the best song in that album is.
Oh, it's not even close.
No.
Well, it's
Close. There's other good ones.
Yeah, that's a tough
It's-
one.
But there's a clear number one. This, yeah, I completely agree. Like this song for me, like kind of slips a little bit when I think of the great songs off this album, but it's indisputably a great song.
Yeah.
And I think the correct one to close with, because it's also a banger.
That is definitely, it doesn't fit the Tom Haverford definition of a banger because it doesn't have enough drops.
Yeah.
But by our definition, by the definition of a concert of all 14-year-old girls, this is a banger.
It left me feeling good.
Yeah.
It ended the concert on a very pleasant, good feeling note.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, Are You Mine? So number 7 was a song that I also did not expect to hear.
Yeah, same.
And that I love. Like one of my all-time favorite Arctic Monkeys songs, Do Me a Favor. I love that song. There's just few lines that are better than Do Me a Favor and Break My Nose. Like I don't know. It's just such a good song, like about kind of being a shitty boyfriend.
Yeah.
And like, he says like, he's worried about spoiling the surprise and taking their hands off of her eyes too soon. Like, I love that. It's such a good song and it played so well. It took me a little while to recognize what it was.
Same.
Cause I had looked at those set lists and didn't expect it to be played. And it sort of felt somewhat separate from the rest of this set list, but in a really great way. Cause a couple of those slow songs, and we'll get to a couple of my favorites, shortly, but there is a stretch in that sort of like the favorite worst nightmare through humbug stretch where there's a couple really great slow songs that really are worth hearing. And this changed up the pace of the concert really nicely.
Yeah, it's one of those songs that, like, I feel like when I was listening to a lot of their older albums, I would always recognize that song. It's like, I like this song, but it just always fell in between, like, all the other songs that I liked way more. But hearing this one live, it also caught me by surprise, and yeah, it was great. It was not much of a banger though, but like,
No.
but like I would consider it archetypal, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a prototype of Arctic Monkey songs.
Yeah, the writing. I mean, that's what Alex Turner is known for, is his writing, and this is such a well-written song.
Yeah, this is nice because if you didn't know this song, and I'm less intimately familiar with their older stuff than you are, so I actually, like you said, Alex, I listen to a lot of their stuff on shuffle, and this song always comes up and I always recognize it, but I don't know all the words, and because it's a little slower, you can actually sit and listen to it and
that
appreciate
does make
it
a difference.
in real time.
Yeah.
Because like there are other songs on their set list that were faster that I didn't know as well, and it was just like, good luck, you know?
Seriously. Like, think about like Teddy Picker. Like, I mean, you're never gonna pick the words out of that one.
Nah.
But this is one that it serves it up to you on a platter in a really nice way.
Yeah, and I can't think of another band whose writing I prefer more than the Arctic Monkeys. They're so, it's mostly Alex Turner. It's all funny, and like, it kind of reminds me of Beck. Do you guys listen to Beck? Like, it's, you listen to it and you're like, some of this shit is so random. Like, Beck takes it to a completely different level where it's like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, Alex Turner, it's random, but it all perfectly fits. His descriptive talents are really great. I don't know. And obviously the way he says the things that he does.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting is my favorite musical writer, this is no surprise for anybody, is Bruce Springsteen. But what's interesting about Springsteen is that essentially all of his songs are in the first person, taking on a persona and following sort of a storyline. Like, he's very story driven. There's like a very traditional plot structure in his songs, and what he does with them is interesting, but it's a plot. Like, I went to Vietnam, things went wrong, I came back, there were no jobs, now I'm angry. Like, that's a pretty reasonable progression. What I think Alex Turner does is he's more of like a stream of consciousness writer.
Interesting.
In that it is always first person in the same way that Bruce's are, but they always take a really roundabout way of building up a perspective. But it's just, I think, just as effective as a story sort of concept. I don't know.
That's a very deep way of looking at it. I never really thought about it. I don't analyze it. I don't analyze the Arctic Monkeys songs as deeply as you guys do. I always just think it's a conglomeration of random words that somehow fit together, and I like the way he says it.
But you feel it though. Like,
Yeah,
even if you're not thinking about it, you feel it. You're like, even when I am hearing "do the Macarena in the Devil's Lair," like for whatever reason, when that's taken in like conjunction with the "Don't sit down because I moved your chair" and all the rest of the goofy stuff that you're supposed to be doing in the song, you're like, I have a feeling. There's some feeling is building in me that I'm not totally sure why it's building.
Well, I think one thing about him that maybe is a little different than Bruce, and I don't listen to nearly as much Bruce as you do, but like the wackiness of the way he describes things really, it makes you feel like you have a good sense of what he's thinking about.
Yeah.
And it feels a little more,
He narrows it down.
like deeply personal, whereas I think Bruce's music you could listen to and apply it to yourself or like to a lot of other people.
That's a good point. It's a little
when
more
you listen to
communal.
Alex, yeah, whereas his is like, I feel like I'm in his head. Like, these are the random weird things that happen in my head too, but he's articulating them for himself personally.
Absolutely.
Which is cool.
Yeah. That's a really good distinction to draw. I think you're right about that.
I was thinking for a not top 3, we could just talk about some songs that they didn't play that we kind of hoped they would.
Yeah. Well,
We already have those 3.
there's a couple of obvious ones.
Yeah.
Alex, you go ahead because
That's a good
concert-
point. That's a very good
Oh,
point.
man.
Alex is probably the right person to handle these.
I mean, you guys, I obviously loved it, and so did you guys, but there was still like a tint of disappointment where like, I loved the closer of Are You Mine, but I was totally expecting to hear like at least one of Fluorescent Adolescent or Marty Bum or
both.
or both. Those would be my top 2 and presumably your guys' top 2. A third, Kyle already mentioned it, is I just love A Certain Romance. It's like one of my favorite songs. And I didn't expect them to play that one, but had they, that would have been perfect for me. But those are, was I supposed to do that? Was I supposed to name all 3 of them?
no,
right
that's
there?
good. That's
Yeah, I was actually stunned that they didn't play. I thought they might not play Marty Bum. I was stunned that they didn't play Fluorescent Adolescent. If you ask any random person if they know a Monkey song, this is the one that they know. And if this song comes on the radio, even if people don't know that it's the Monkees, they can probably sing along to it a little bit.
yeah.
It's the best they ever had. Now it's just a memory.
Just a memory.
Memory.
That's all it is.
I would throw on there as well. I love AM so much. I was hoping they might play One for the Road.
Oh,
Ooh.
that would have been nice.
And I really thought they might have played this one because it's a little slower. The number 1 party anthem.
I
Interesting.
really would. So that would probably be my number 1 song I would have wanted to hear acoustically. I
Yeah.
would have really enjoyed hearing that one acoustically because we've watched that YouTube video countless times of them doing it.
Party anthem.
Yeah. Oh,
What are they doing?
it's just them on like a radio show and
It's like MTV Unplugged, like something akin to that. And they're
yeah. And it's just Alex Turner and, was it Nick, the drummer and,
How's the beginning of it go again? So,
it's come out, come out, come out. Number 1 party anthem.
okay.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
me singing.
certified mind blower. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's coming back to me.
Yeah. It's like searching from somewhere from which I might know where knowing full well I don't. Like that's
To get the ball to roll.
Oh, that's such a great line. Drunken monologues confused because it's not like I'm falling in love, you know, the whole thing. That would have been cool to hear acoustically. That was high on my list. I would have liked to have heard That's Where You're Wrong. Caroline and I have agreed that's like the perfect closing song of anything. Like it's such a perfect last song on So I Couldn't See. So I would have liked to have heard that. The other ones that you guys have mentioned, those are kind of the big ones.
The biggest being Fluorescent Adolescent and Marty Bum. 'Cause
Yeah.
people really know those songs.
Agreed. And those would have fit well with the songs that kind of got the biggest reaction from the crowd, which I think could probably bring us to number 6,
Yeah.
View from the Afternoon.
Yeah.
So that was I think the second to last song that they played, and that
It was in their encore.
it was in the encore. That got you know what, I think you're right. I think it was the third. I think it was the first song of the encore because they then played one of the Tranquility Base songs in the middle,
I
right?
think they played Ultra Cheese in
Did-
the encore yet.
Did
or
they
no?
play Ultra Cheese first or second?
I can't. I think Ultra Cheese was the one that they brought that.
They brought
cube
that
out
weird
for.
cube out for, yeah.
yeah.
So that must have been first then, right?
Is Ultra Cheese higher on your list?
Right?
No. Ultra Cheese will not appear
That one,
later.
I remember that distinctly.
Well, the
just
cube,
sucked.
the cube was weird.
Then let's talk about that fucking cube. Like, what the hell?
It's cubular. Like,
When they were in their encore, everything was dark. You could see, like,
Yes.
the roadies, like, bringing this, like, cube. It was like a cube. Imagine a cube resting on one of its points.
It looks like the old Enron logo.
It looked like
Right. And you could see it in the dark, like, silhouetted, and it was spinning, and you were like,
Whoa.
what is this cube? Is it a giant die?
Yeah.
That
would have been
like,
perfect because it's the casino.
That's what I thought. Or is it gonna, like, open up and, like, a bunch of live scorpions or flying monkeys gonna come out? What's it gonna be?
It's a fridge full of Arctic monkeys, like something.
And the lights come on, and it's just like a relatively reflective gray cube.
And
it wasn't even...
But what's the most important thing about the cube?
it spun. That's it, right?
No,
it didn't.
How long was it there for?
Like 3
One song!
One song,
Wait,
and then it
what?
was, and then
Wait,
they
I
took
thought it was there the whole.
No, and then they took
No.
like a 20-second break. It wasn't a 5 minutes interruption, but it was like a 20-second break
Really?
to then wheel the cube back.
It was mildly reflective. It wasn't even,
Yeah.
it wasn't like it was a disco ball, okay? It had like some stripes on it that were fairly reflective, and it was spinning, and they had a light shined on it. So like, as it spun, the light would like rotate around the arena, but it wasn't like a million lights. It was only 2. It was really underwhelming, and I don't know. It kind of
like-
fits that album for me, but
In the main, I found it confusing.
Yeah.
yeah.
But luckily, the encore was not only Ultra Cheese.
Oh yeah.
The encore
sorry.
included View from the Afternoon, which
Good point.
was set the crowd on fire.
Another song I didn't expect to hear.
Agreed. Was that the one that people started moshing?
No, that
I
was,
think we can get to that one
Yeah,
a little
that
bit
was
later.
later.
Okay.
But I think that people may have brought the moshing back a little bit for this one because it's an earlier song of theirs.
fast paced.
Yes.
So this was a good one. But I think that brings us to number 5, which is what you and I, Kyle, would agree is the best song off of AM. A song you and I have been waiting to hear live for years. A song which, while standing next to my longtime girlfriend Caroline, I probably should have been thinking about her or singing it to her. But I didn't. I was thinking about you and singing it to you.
We stared deep into each other's eyes as we sang that our days end best when the sunset
Yeah.
gets itself behind.
Behind
That little lady sitting on the
passenger
side.
Yes.
Oh my god, what a banger.
Arabella, a great tune. An absolutely wondrous tune. It's a massive tune, some might even argue.
What's it mean? I have no idea actually.
It's just a lady's name.
Really?
Yeah, and the
I've
song-
never met anyone named that.
You probably haven't. There's not a lot of ladies who live in Boston named Arabella, but
She's got a 70s head,
yeah.
but
Where do they
she's a
live?
modern lover.
There is one that lives on Privet Drive, Arabella Fig. Mrs. Fig, the cat lady, squib.
Wow. That is a deep 3 knowing Miss Fig's first name.
Yeah, so I don't really know where these Arabellas live, but they don't live in our neighborhood. But that song is amazing. I think you and I are probably in agreement that the high point of this song, and like maybe the high point of Western civilization, is the sequence about Mexican Cokes and bottles and organic cigarettes.
So, is when she wraps her lips around the Mexican Coke,
yeah.
to me, it sounds like he's making, I think, a fairly obvious reference to oral sex.
Yeah,
Is that what you got out of that?
Yes, it's a
Mexican
wiener
Coke?
reference. When he says she wraps her lips around the Mexican Coke and it makes you wish that you were the bottle.
Oh,
yeah, it's,
bottle.
yeah.
All right, yes, yeah.
it's a wiener.
Yeah.
That's a wiener reference.
Yeah.
Takes a sip of your soul, and it sounds like, and then there's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. It's the best musical representation of a beacher that I know of.
that rivals with Candy Shop in terms of subtlety in music. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's
okay.
very clear what's happening, and yes, I think it's a pretty good, pretty self-evident musical representation of male pleasure.
I think it's even better than Flo Rida's Whistle.
Ooh.
Yes, because I don't think there's any part of that song where I'm emotionally sort of feeling like there's some whistling going on. I'll tell you, standing next to you at that concert, hearing that little guitar solo, I was right there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, wonderful song on the album, wonderful live, and one that we've been wanting to check off for a long time. So that was great.
Faux show.
Faux show. Number 4 is also a number. One of my all-time favorite Arctic Monkeys songs. As I mentioned to you, the song I always listened to in college when I was coming back home, because it reminds me of going home, 505.
Oh.
Back to 505.
So I've got...
This-
so you tell us about 505 for you.
If you had to rank, like, maybe we will. If we ranked the best songs to listen to, like, at 2 a.m. while you're driving, alone in your car on a 2-lane highway, this is way up there.
Way up. Open All Night by Bruce Springsteen is another good one.
This song so perfectly captures the feeling of, like, a long day and just needing to be back somewhere that feels comfortable to you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And like I know that you probably expected it because you had been researching into the set list, but I didn't really actually expect this one to get played. This felt like to me a song that like I really loved, but that not maybe everyone else did. And I think a lot of people probably feel that way.
Yeah.
That it has a personal connection for them.
Yeah. So what's interesting is I did a little bit of research today, actually, because I was curious where 505 is. And it turns out 505 is not like a where, it's not an area code or anything. It's apparently sort of the code that was used in the gay community in the 70s and 80s. It was sort of like a code for like, oh, where you going, 505? And it's like, oh, that's, I'm gay. And
wow.
So that was an interesting new layer for this song because apparently some people at least theorize that this is a song about a man going to kill his boyfriend.
Interesting.
I don't know that I totally read it that way. That seems a little bit like we're reading a little too much into it. But I do think that that added layer seems like something that would interest Alex Turner, like making this not just about him, making this sort of like that look into his mind, but universalizing it a little bit by making it about two guys. And I just love like the line about, going like in my mind, like you got your hands are on your thighs and like, I'm trying to think of the line exactly, like you're lying on your side with your hands between your thighs. And it's just, you just imagine yourself like going back to somebody you love and you just see them waiting there for you. And that's what this song is all about. And hopefully the song is not about going to see them in a violent sense. Maybe it is, but I think it's definitely about like missing somebody and imagining them before you go to see them and then hoping that your expectations are met.
That's how I read into it. And not to sound too douchely, but that's one really spectacular thing about music is that you don't have to see it the same way that the artist sees it. And I think most artists would tell you the same thing. Yeah.
And it's just a great song. And it was so good live. Man, it was so good. This was one that they don't really have to change anything. Just sing it the way it needs to be sung, and he did it.
Yeah, and I also like that the song builds. It's really methodical, and it gets loud.
I know, that was something that struck me, is I forgot how loud it gets in the middle. But hearing it live reminded me that it's got a little bit of a banger in there.
Beautiful song. I was really happy they played that one.
Yeah. All right. So number 3, I don't really have honorable mentions. I mean, I
don't know. We could maybe just list like other songs that they did play that we wouldn't put in our top 10, I guess.
Not in my top 10. I really liked Why'd You Only Call Me When You're High because it's an amazing song and it sounded great. Big fan. That sounded great. I actually liked, as sort of a joint honorable mention, the Tranquility-based songs. Like 4 out of 5 was really good.
They opened with that, right?
They opened with that. Tranquility-based, the title track was really good.
I really liked watching him sing that.
I really liked because he's
doing
Mark.
The hand movements.
He's Mark, and he was doing hand motions the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, you know how when we go to a bar and we're just drinking heavily, and when you sing along with the song, you use your body and your hands to basically narrate the song?
Well, Sarah pantomiming choking during Mr. Brightside is like the perfect expression of that.
Exactly. But like the idea of miming out a song as you dance to it, like, he was doing that the whole time, which is really fun to watch.
I really like that.
Especially on this song when he says, Mark speaking, how may I direct your call? Like when he was doing the phone, like it was just funny.
Yeah, he's like sort of looking away from the phone, like sort of a distracted person on the phone. So that's those are the ones that I was thinking of. Did you have any others that you found, or do you just want to kind of play it safe in case I mention them in the top 3?
I'll play it safe.
Okay. All right. So number 3, Kyle's got a look in his eyes. So number 3 is one of their most well-known songs, and there's no reason to complicate it. It's a great song, and it sounded great. Do I Want to Know?
Do I want to know?
This song really got the people going.
Yeah. It absolutely did. I think this was there was a stretch in there, which we'll get into a little bit more, but there was a stretch, I think we agreed about halfway through the show, where they just grabbed the audience by the throat and they had us. They definitely, you have to turn up and turn down in the show. And I think maybe they could have been a little more intelligent about it, but holy crap, they had us for a stretch of like 4 or 5 songs here. And this was right in the middle of it.
I really like that they knew that like people are going to lose their shit for AM.
Yeah.
And they waited probably like 6 or 7 songs to play a track off of AM.
Yeah.
And then when they did, it was Knee Socks. That was the first song, which like...
Yeah. I'm surprised that didn't make this list. I love that.
So the only reason Knee Socks didn't make this list is because I think we have an inordinate sort of love for Knee Socks, like compared to your average person, but we can talk about it. But I agree, yes, they teased us a little bit.
It's a great song, but it's such a baller move to make that to make you wait that long and then make that be the first track off of AM.
Yeah.
And I think Do I Want to Know was when they were finally like, okay, here it is.
Yeah. And
people lost it. It was really clever, I think, the way they spaced it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so number 2 is one of my favorite Arctic Monkeys songs. I think it's probably their best written song. It was a song I wasn't sure we were going to hear, and it was so gratifying to hear it live. Caroline and I have been waiting to hear this one live for a long time. Cornerstone.
This is a purely delight. I just listened to it before we started this because I knew we would be talking about it. Just to fill everybody in, it's like it's written like he's speaking to his ex.
Yeah.
And he meets all these girls that like could have been her sister or like could have been your ghost. Like all these girls that look just like her. And it goes really well for him when he meets this girl until he asks if he can call her by her name, call her by your name, and then things don't go so well for him.
Yeah.
It's
until the end of the song. And so it that's what the cleverness of this is. The song is like 3 minutes and you get this story. You see this guy just wandering around bars looking for the girls who are like the girl he really loves, his ex, and asking to call them by her name and them having some reaction or other. And then finally he sees her sister in Cornerstone and he saw that she was on her own, thought she might understand. She was close. No, you couldn't get much closer. He knows he's really not supposed to, or she knows she's really not supposed to, but yes, you can call her anything you want.
Oh man.
And it's just like this, just a mic drop end to a song. He did it perfectly. And then I love this touch. After he finished that song, he goes, anything?
Anything?
Like,
yeah.
He's like a kid in the back of class making a snide remark about what the teacher said, but it's like, he's making a snide remark about what he wrote 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was very self-aware. The song was incredible. I was transported. God, I love that song.
He was really good. I think my favorite, and it's the same, like what I was saying before, how he kind of like, I think introduces like really personal notes. Like I feel like he says, I thought I saw you in the parrot's claw, or like a parrot's beak. Like the bar is called like the parrot's beak or something, which like, is an actual bar that he hung out at.
Absolutely.
Probably. Playing with the smoke alarm. Like what the fuck?
It's so close that the walls were wet. Like you can imagine yourself in one of those bars where the walls actually sweat. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's brilliant. That song is just so good. And it was so well performed live. And I loved the little ad-libs. He had a couple that he ad-libbed a little bit. And then obviously the ending note with like the anything was just, it made it. It was great.
And you had told me when the mini mansions were still playing that you were really looking forward and hoping that they would play this one. So it felt like a nice thing for you there. I was happy.
Absolutely.
For all of us for all of us, but especially for you.
Thanks, dog. All right, so number one, there could only be one. I have rarely seen an audience lose their shit the way they lost their shit for this song. Like, Alex and I saw people lose it for Mr. Brightside when we saw the Killers. Like, people went crazy for that. I've seen people listening to Rosalita and Born to Run and these, like, great Bruce songs, and I don't know that I've ever seen such a concentrated group of people lose it the way everybody lost it.
This was the mosh pit song.
Yeah, the mosh pit was crazy when I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor.
It's crazy to me. I like this song, but it's like, I wouldn't have pegged it as like the best song that they, like, I wouldn't have pegged it as like the best performance going into the night.
Yeah.
And then it just brought out the crowd.
It's so frenetic from start to finish. It just puts you in a fervor. And like, I've seen whirlpool mosh pits form before, but they're slow forming, like a whirlpool.
Yeah.
I looked down and people were running in circles, like pushing each other around. Like, it was crazy how fast it happened. They did look good on the dance floor.
They did. And the thing that you forget when you haven't listened to the song a little bit is it's over as soon as it begins. Like, that song is like 2.5 minutes of just complete insanity. And I couldn't believe it. The people lost their crap.
That was towards the end, wasn't it?
I want to say it was in the middle somewhere. I think this was during that golden run in the middle.
It was when they were playing like the bangers off of AM and they threw this in there. Like they lathered us up and then they hit us with this and people were feeling it. Yeah. That was probably that was the peak of the concert.
That was.
Probably, yeah.
It was not a peak that you can sustain because somebody would have died in that mosh pit.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a good thing it's such a short song.
Yeah, but holy crap. And all the, like, just the joy of the crowd aside, it sounded
great.
Fucking great. Yeah. And was awesome.
Sounded really good. Yeah. The only other ones I wanted to mention were, you said it earlier, but Teddy Picker, I really like that song.
Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot.
Kids Wanna Make It, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And this is one of my personal favorites. I was kind of surprised they played it, Crying Lightning, and they played it really early.
Yeah.
So, really love those songs. Wanted to shout them out. I don't think we have to go crazy re-ranking this.
No.
Or if we need to at all.
Unless you guys, like, want to beat me up on one, then I think we can let it be.
Oh, I think I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
You put together a good list here, and though Alex and I love the Monkees, you are the authority on them, so.
Wow. This is very much a communal thing. My love of the Arctic Monkeys stems, well, I would say it probably stems from Heartache originally, but then it was planted in Heartache and then watered by the communal love of this group right here, you guys, and then longtime girlfriend Linus and our newest fan Jerry.
And I will say that I flew out to Boston.
Yeah. Yes.
Got there, landed basically as the show was starting, rushed over, needn't have worried because the mini mansions were going to play for an hour.
Oh man,
friggin' mini mansions just kept playing.
And then in order to make it back for another concert, I had to leave the next day at like 11 in the morning. So I was in Boston like significantly shorter than 24 hours.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a pain in the butt. And seeing this show with you guys was so unquestionably worth it.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really happy we had this experience and would recommend to anyone out there to go see the Arctic Monkeys. They put on a hell of a show.
Damn straight.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to have a boner for the Arctic Monkeys after this pod, but instead I have a boner for our friendship.
Yeah, I hope they have like a classics tour, just so that I can hear Fluorescent Adolescent live and Marty Bum.
Alex will be okay. He'll recover one of these days.
Yeah. All right. Good work, buddies. I'm glad that we got to extend this experience into a podcast.
Amen. Thanks, dog.
All right. Peace.
Alrighty, friends. That was our top 10 for this week, but now we'd love to hear your top 10. So please check us out on all of our available social media outlets, traditional outlets, whatever outlets we have. Check us out on Twitter at top10km. That's all spelled out, top10km. Our email, top10km, spelled the same way, at gmail.com. Or our site, top10km.podbean.com. All forms of communication accepted except for serial killer notes. please don't send us any of those.
If you like the pod, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never have to miss an episode of Top 10 ever again. If you didn't like it, please tell us why. We'll try to make the show better. Our theme music was composed by Kevin MacLeod, and our artwork was created by Erin Sant. You can check out her stuff at Sant Design on Instagram.
Alrighty, goons. We'll see you next week. I know you said I can just scrub it, but it sounded like you said I can just rub it. And I don't know. My brain went somewhere. But
okay.
That's your person.
You said 10 minutes.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be done in 10.
Alex, you can just rub it.